There is a moment in the awakening of consciousness when everything you believe to be true dissolves like mist under the rising sun. Alan Watts always knew this. He saw the world not as a collection of separate objects, but as a single dance, a continuous movement where observer and observed are two sides of the same cosmic coin. And today, at this very moment, you are about to discover something that could completely reshape your relationship with reality. We are not talking about superficial techniques or empty promises. We are talking about such a profound understanding of the nature of existence that, once touched, you will never be the same again. There is a force operating through you at this moment, not something external that needs to be conquered, but an internal presence that is already complete. Watts called this the cosmic game of hide and seek. The idea that the universe is constantly pretending to be you, forgetting itself in order to rediscover itself through your eyes. Every word you speak, every thought you cultivate is not describing reality. It is creating it, shaping it, giving it tangible form in the manifest world. This is not poetic metaphor. It is precise observation of how consciousness operates through matter. But here's the paradox that few understand. You can't force this transformation. The more you try to control it, the more it slips through your fingers. It's like trying to hold water with your hands open. Impossible. True mastery, according to Watts, lies not in effort but in intelligent surrender. It's learning to flow with life instead of against it, recognizing that you are not a separate wave trying to reach the ocean. You are already the ocean, experiencing yourself as a wave. This understanding alone can dissolve years of unnecessary struggle. Alan Watts spent decades studying Eastern traditions, distilling their essences, and translating them for the Western mind. He realized that the West had fallen into a peculiar trap, the belief that we are separate entities from the universe, external observers trying to manipulate a hostile world. But Eastern traditions had always known something different. They recognized that separation is illusory, that the division between self and world is merely a linguistic convention, not a fundamental truth. What would happen if you stopped resisting life for just a moment? If you let go of all the stories about who you should be and simply allowed your true nature to emerge? That is the door that is opening now, and on the other side lies a freedom you can't even imagine. A freedom that doesn't come from external circumstances, but from an inner understanding so vast that circumstances lose their power to define you. Are you ready to walk through that door? Because once you see through the illusion of separation, once you recognize your true nature, there is no turning back. And why would there be? Who would voluntarily return to a prison after discovering that the door was always open? Alan Watts observed people rushing around, chasing happiness as if it were always in the next moment, the next achievement, the next relationship, and he realized something crucial. We are all living in postponement mode, always preparing to live but never actually living. We say, "I will be happy when," and that phrase becomes the most sophisticated prison ever built. When I get the job, when I find love, when I have enough money. And so life goes by, an endless series of conditions that need to be met before we can finally allow ourselves to be present, to be alive, to be complete. Imagine your mind as a garden. For years you've been planting seeds without realizing it. Repetitive thoughts, inherited beliefs, narratives about your limitations. And now that garden has grown wild, full of weeds you don't even remember planting. Every time you say "I am," followed by something limiting, you are watering those weeds. You are fertilizing exactly what you want to eliminate. I am someone who always struggles financially. I am terrible at relationships. I am anxious by nature. These statements are not neutral observations. They are creative commands, direct instructions to your subconscious mind about what kind of experiences it should continue to generate. Watts taught that language is not neutral. Each word carries a universe of meanings, and when you identify with something through language, you summon that reality into your experience. I am anxious is not a description. It's an invocation, a ritual that strengthens the very anxiety you seek to dissolve. But what if you started using language differently? What if, instead of describing what you are, you started declaring what you are becoming? Not superficially, not simply exchanging negative words for positive ones, but through a fundamental shift in how you relate to language as a tool for creation. There is a difference between affirmation and assumption. Affirmation says, "I want." to be confident, while still internally identifying with insecurity. Assumption says, I am confident, and inhabits that state so completely that it ceases to be an aspiration and becomes an identity. Watts noted that most people use affirmations as a kind of hopeful self-deception, repeating beautiful words while their bodies, emotions, and actions scream the opposite, and then they wonder why nothing changes. The point isn't to deny your current reality, it's to recognize that this reality is transient, fluid, constantly reshaping itself based on what you feed it with your attention. Have you ever noticed how on certain days everything seems to conspire in your favor, while on others, everything falls apart? Watts would say that the difference isn't in the days, it's in the state of consciousness you inhabit. And this state can be chosen, cultivated, refined, not through brute force or military discipline, but through an increasingly subtle understanding of how your consciousness interacts with the field of reality. But how exactly does this work? How do you go from being a victim of circumstances to being the conscious architect of your experience? That's the central question, and the answer is both simpler and more profound than you imagine. There is a fundamental difference between wanting something and assuming you already are it. Alan Watts called the former anxious desire and the latter natural wisdom. Anxious desire carries within itself the seed of separation. You are here. What you want is there, and there is a chasm between the two. This chasm widens each day you identify with lack. Each moment you mentally reinforce the distance between your current reality and your desired reality. But assumption is completely different. It is recognizing that at the deepest level of reality, there is no separation. What you seek is already seeking you. It is merely a matter of vibrational alignment, of tuning frequencies. Think of the seed of a giant tree. This seed doesn't wish to become a tree. It embraces its arboreal nature from the very first moment. There is no struggle, no doubt. There is only the natural unfolding of what is already inscribed in its essence. The seed doesn't wake up every day wondering if it will be able to become a tree. It simply grows, following an inner intelligence that doesn't need external validation. And you carry within you a seed that contains the totality of what you can become. But unlike the tree, you have the power to interfere in this process with doubts, fears, and limiting beliefs. You have the power to question your own nature, to deny your own potential, to sabotage your own blossoming. Watts often spoke about the Eastern concept of wu wei, effortless action, or more precisely, action that flows from the true nature of things. When you try to force change in your life through sheer willpower, you are fighting against the Tao, against the natural flow of existence. It's like trying to swim against a powerful current. You exhaust yourself, make little progress, and eventually give up, concluding that change is impossible. But when you align your consciousness with what you wish to manifest, when you live from that place of assumption, life conspires to make it real. Not by magic, but because you stop sabotaging the natural process. You stop sending contradictory signals to the universe. You stop stating one thing with your words while believing another in your heart. The subconscious mind, that vast ocean of processing that operates beneath the surface of everyday consciousness, doesn't understand sarcasm. It doesn't recognize a difference between reality and vivid imagination. It simply accepts as true what you repeatedly feed it with emotion and conviction. So when you imagine something with rich sensory detail, when you feel the emotions associated with having what you desire, your subconscious mind begins to reorganize your perception, your choices, your actions, to turn that imagined experience into physical reality. What would your life be like if you stopped trying so hard? If instead of chasing, you became? If instead of seeking external approval, you simply recognized your inner completeness? These are not rhetorical questions. They are gateways to a deeper understanding. Transformation doesn't happen through adding something new, but through removing the false layers that cover who you've always been. Watts saw this clearly. You don't need to become extraordinary. You need to stop pretending to be ordinary. You don't need to acquire value. You need to recognize the value you've always possessed. But this recognition is not intellectual. It's experiential, visceral, undeniable. Alan Watts told a fascinating story about a Zen master who, when asked about the secret to enlightenment, simply said, "When I'm hungry, I eat. When I'm sleepy, I sleep." The student was perplexed. But everyone does that. And the master replied, "No, when people eat, they are thinking about 1,000 things. When they sleep, they are dreaming about 1,000 worries. They are never truly present in what they are doing." This story reveals something profound about the nature of transformative consciousness. Mastery lies not in doing extraordinary things, but in being completely present in ordinary things. And in that total presence, in the collapse of the division between observer and observed, something miraculous happens. Most people live in a constant state of division. Their body is here, but their mind is there. They are physically present, but psychologically absent, lost in thoughts about the past or anxieties about the future. And in this divided state, it is impossible to consciously manifest a new reality because you are not present enough to sustain the new identity you wish to embody. It's like trying to build a house on unstable ground. No matter how beautiful the design, the foundation will not support the structure. Watts understood that imagination is not escapism. It is the laboratory of creation. When you vividly imagine, when you see yourself in a state of complete fulfillment, you are not merely fantasizing. You are creating an energetic mold, a vibrational pattern that begins to attract circumstances, people, and opportunities that correspond to that frequency. It's like tuning a radio to a specific station. Suddenly you pick up signals that have always been present, but that you couldn't perceive while tuned to another frequency. But here is the crucial detail that most ignore. You need to imagine not from a state of lack, but from a state of fullness. There's an ancient practice that Watts deeply appreciated, visualizing not what you want, but how you would feel if you already had it. Don't see the car, feel the gratitude of owning it. Don't visualize the relationship, inhabit the peace of being loved. Don't imagine the full bank account, experience the security and freedom it would provide. This subtle shift in perspective completely changes the nature of what you are creating. You stop transmitting lack and begin to emanate completeness. And the universe, being essentially a mirror, reflects back that completeness in material form. Can you feel the difference? Can you perceive how one approach comes from a place of inner poverty, while the other comes from a place of inner richness? Modern neuroscience has begun to validate what mystics have always known. When you practice visualization with genuine emotion, your brain doesn't distinguish between real experience and imagined experience. The same neural networks are activated. The same neurotransmitters are released. You are literally training your nervous system to operate from a state of realization before physical realization occurs. And when that happens, when your physiology aligns with your vision, you naturally begin to make decisions, perceive opportunities, and act in ways that make that vision inevitable. Watts warned against mechanical practice, against repeating visualizations like a robot running a program. The key is feeling, the emotional quality of the experience. You can spend hours visualizing wealth, but if during all that time you are feeling anxiety about money, you are only reinforcing the anxiety, not the abundance. It is the emotional state that transmits the signal, not the mental images. The images are merely vehicles for the feeling, anchors to keep you in the desired vibrational state. We have now reached the most delicate moment in this entire journey of conscious transformation. Alan Watts frequently warned about what he called the spiritual poison of premature speech, that irresistible urge to share your revelations, your intentions, your dreams with anyone willing to listen. And here lies the danger. Every time you externalize a vision that has not yet materialized, you subject it to the judgment of others' doubt. You expose it to energies that may not be aligned with its flourishing. And even if the intentions are good, the effect can be devastating. Not because people are bad or envious, although that sometimes happens, but simply because they see the world through their own belief filters. And those filters are usually limiting. When you say, "I'm creating something extraordinary," and the person responds even gently, "But are you sure? Is this realistic? Have you thought about what could go wrong?" They're not trying to protect you. They're projecting their own limitations onto your vision. And if you're not firmly anchored in your inner certainty, those doubts begin to seep in, corroding the foundation of what you're building. It's like a drop of dark ink in a glass of clear water. Little by little, it contaminates everything. Watts taught that silence is not passivity, it is concentrated power. When you keep your vision secret, you are allowing it to germinate in the fertile soil of your consciousness without interference. It's like incubating an egg. If you keep opening it to check on the progress, you kill the process. Gestation requires darkness, constant warmth, protection from the external environment. And once the new being is formed, it emerges naturally, without need for announcement or explanation. The bird doesn't need to declare its ability to fly, it simply spreads its wings. There's a fascinating psychological phenomenon here. When you share a goal or vision prematurely, your brain experiences a small dose of satisfaction, as if you've already achieved it. You receive social validation, perhaps admiration, certainly attention, and this early gratification can rob you of the motivation needed to actually realize the vision. You get the emotional reward before doing the work, and so the urgency diminishes. Watts perceived this intuitively, and modern science has confirmed it through studies in social neuroscience. There is a time to share and a time to be silent. Wisdom lies in recognizing the difference. While your transformation is still a seed, protect it fiercely. Do not discuss your plans with those who do not understand the language of conscious creation. Do not seek validation from people who are still imprisoned by their own limitations. This is not arrogance, it is discernment. It is recognizing that not everyone is vibrating at the same frequency, and that certain frequencies can destabilize your process. When it becomes a strong tree, it won't need protection. Everyone will see its magnificence. Without you having to say a word, your life will become the testament, and testimonies always speak louder than words. People will notice the change in your energy, in your presence, in your results. And then, if you choose to share, you will be speaking from a place of accomplishment, not hope. You will be offering living proof, not abstract theory. And that's a completely different conversation. Watts saw this repeatedly. The most transformed people are often the least vocal about their process. They work in silence, cultivate in private, and then simply emerge changed. And when asked how it happened, they smile with that secret knowledge, because they know that some things cannot be explained, only experienced. The journey cannot be outsourced. The awakening cannot be fully verbalized. There are truths that live only in silence. And so we come to the end of this journey. But in truth, this is only the beginning. Alan Watts always said that knowledge without practice is like a seed that never finds the soil, full of potential, but eternally barren. You can hear 1,000 teachings, read 1,000 books, watch 1,000 videos, but if none of that translates into real change in your way of being, it's all just spiritual entertainment. And there's an epidemic of that today. People consuming transformative content as if it were entertainment, collecting concepts but never applying them, accumulating insights but never embodying them. Everything we've explored here, the power of conscious language, the art of assumption, the cultivation of disciplined imagination, the sacred protection of silence, all of this remains just a concept until you decide to embody it. And embodying it doesn't mean doing it perfectly. It means starting honestly. It means stumbling, adjusting, continuing. It means committing to the process even when the results aren't immediate, even when doubt whispers, even when the world around you hasn't changed yet. So here's the direct invitation. Without beating around the bush, start today. Not tomorrow, not after circumstances improve, not when you feel more prepared. Today, now, at this very moment. Choose a statement of identity that resonates with who you are becoming. Something simple, something powerful. It doesn't have to be grandiose. It could be, I am calm in the face of challenges, or I am someone who attracts opportunities, or I am worthy of unconditional love. Whatever it is, choose something that strikes a chord in your heart, something that part of you already knows to be true, even if another part still doubts it, and repeat it internally until it's no longer an affirmation but an acknowledgement, until it becomes as natural as breathing. Don't force it. Don't try to convince yourself through mechanical repetition. Instead, feel yourself in that state. Imagine yourself living like that person. Notice how they walk, how they respond to challenges, how they treat others, how they treat themselves. And gradually, imperceptibly at first, you will notice that you are beginning to act from that place. Not because you are pretending, but because you are remembering. Cultivate a daily practice of mindful imagination. It doesn't need to be long, 5 minutes upon waking, 5 minutes before sleeping, but it needs to be consistent. See yourself already living the life you desire, not as a distant observer watching a movie, but as the protagonist, feeling every emotion, every sensation, every vivid detail of that reality. Feel the texture of the clothes you would wear, the weight of the keys in your pocket, the aroma of the environment, the sound of the voices around you. The more sensorially rich, the more powerful the impact on your subconscious. And above all, keep it quiet. Let people discover your transformation through results, not through announcements. Be the quiet change that eventually speaks so loudly it can't be ignored. This requires patience, and patience is a rare virtue in a world addicted to instant gratification. But remember, you're not playing the short-term game of external validation. You're committed to the long-term game of genuine transformation. Watts constantly reminded us that you are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. All the creativity, all the wisdom, all the power you admire in other people already exists within you, just waiting to be recognized and allowed to flow. It's not something you need to conquer. It's something you need to unlock. And the key to that unlocking lies in your willingness to let go of who you thought you were in order to become who you always were. This is your moment. This is your opportunity to stop living like a beggar asking for crumbs and start living like the king of your own inner kingdom. It's not about external circumstances, although they inevitably change when you change. It's about recognizing that you always had the power, you always had the authority, you always had the creative capacity. You just forgot for a while, distracted by the noise of the world, by the opinions of others, by the limiting stories you inherited. If this content resonated with you, if something here touched a deep chord in your soul, show it. Leave a like, even anonymously. Share your reflections in the comments. This channel is strengthened by each voice that joins this journey of conscious awakening. Every comment, every interaction shows us that these messages are reaching those who are ready to hear them. Subscribe to continue exploring the mysteries of inner transformation, to dive deeper into the waters of expanded consciousness, to walk alongside others who have chosen the road less traveled and now go. Not as someone who has heard something interesting, but as someone who has remembered who they have always been. Not as someone who has learned a new technique, but as someone who has recognized an ancient truth. Awakening is not a future event. It happens in this moment, in this breath, in this choice to see yourself differently. Awakening begins now, and you are the awakener and the awakened. You are the question and the answer. You are the journey and the destination. You always have been. You always will be.